My name is Sakela Buhlungu, Dean of the Faculty of Humanities. The idea of an assembly came up in discussions within the faculty following events that we all know that unfolded in the first semester of the year. It was felt that a lot had happened, some of which had brought us together, but also some of it threatened to pull us apart as a community of students, as a community of academics, as a community of past staff and support staff.
So I won't say too much in terms of formalities, but firstly to say that the format today will take the form of largely discussions. There are three key themes. Firstly, transformation of teaching and learning. Secondly, staff and student transformation. And then finally, transforming institutional symbols.
It's been noted that African scholars and African perspectives tend to be taught from a Western paradigm and with a Western bias. And this has the consequence of leading African content to be isolated and depicted as secondary and othered. And this is very problematic. Specifically, for example, the relegation of African content to more senior specialist courses, or the relegation of African content to a 1-week slot in a 12-week curriculum is problematic.
Before we get into granting proposals, I would just like to say that, Prof, this approach that you are taking is way too premature. We cannot have reconciliation without redress. We cannot have a situation like this where we are promoting proposals without thinking about giving space to students to vent their issues. This is the only space that we've had where we can actually come together as a community of academics and voice our issues. We haven't been given the space from Prof to do anything else. So I would like the students to think about the fact that these spaces should actually be hijacked for your issues. Do not let the institution tell you that we first have to do proposals. Let us think about how we feel in these issues. Let us think about the fact that we're not actually reconciled by what's happened.
As a postgraduate student, I think that it's very problematic that African studies is not offered from an undergraduate level. Because if you look at the curriculum and how the curriculum is formed, if we're going to call ourselves an Afropolitan university, it needs to start from undergraduate level, where people are familiar with literature and what it means, what African intellectualism means. And it shouldn't be like a foreign thing where we discuss it amongst each other in Rhodes Must Fall, or it must be something that we're free in a space, in an African space to talk about.
The apartheid era would not have fallen half as quickly as it did if it weren't for all of the protest theatre that was being made and all of the creative arts. And in the humanities, surely that's what we're doing. So, our formal proposal, because we have been demanded as such, is that we would like an opportunity from first year in our curriculum for our students to have a semester or even a 4-week course on self-discovery and understanding what it is to be a theatre person and a creative person in the current climate of South Africa.
I'd just like to talk about the EDU program. Firstly, I'd just like to point out the stigma that is placed upon this program and how if you're part of the EDU program, people automatically assume that you're dumber. And then what I've noticed is that most of the people that are part of this program mostly come from schools that are from the townships and stuff like that.
For those of you who do not know, the extended degree program is a program that has lower admission requirements than a 3-year program. Due to Department of Higher and Education training policy, it is a redress program, so it specifically caters for black students. This is extremely problematic on many levels. Students in our program feel a huge degree of stigma, all the issues that have already been raised. We've been having lots of weekly conversations with our students in the EDU about these issues. There's obviously a lot of things that have been raised.
I'm excited for transformation. And so my question is simple: what can I as a white male contribute to its momentum?
What hasn't been spoken about is disability. I am a partly deaf student. and symbolically coming into this room and hearing an audio tape of those questions and not being able to hear it was an act of violation towards me and to those who can't hear properly because precisely we couldn't hear it. And I just find that constantly students with disabilities, and particularly those that aren't visible, such as myself, being marginalized in lectures, being marginalized in spaces of tutorials, just the structure of classrooms in which all students are facing the same way limits me from being able to lip read and to be able to participate fully in those classrooms.
The word transformation, it sends a symbolic image in your head. And what I'm observing here happening right now does not connote transformation. It is completely radical from what the term transformation connotes. The conversations that are being given out here, they're speaking of radical, and radical can never be amounting to transformation in symbolic terms. It is decolonization. And I do think when you are continuing with this conversation, you need to pay close attention to that, because if you continue with transformation, you are telling me that I must take 2 steps forward. But if you're looking at or you're listening to the conversation that is going on here, people are telling you to take 20 steps forward. And those are 2 different things symbolically.